Welcome back to Royals Weekly. I am your host, Marcus Mead, and joining me as always, a man with experience driving and puking at the same time, my brother Mike.
I'm a Renaissance man. Okay. Driving while puking sounds like just the best punk band of all time.
Yeah.
You know, like we're setting records, this punk band. Yeah. I am no stranger to the expulsion of bodily fluids whilst in a vehicle. That's not outside my purview.
Where we come from, they teach you that real early on, like from birth. You're learning that sort of thing. We come from a very interesting part of the country. So, you know, it's just normal stuff. On this week's episode, apologies that this is actually coming out a day later than you may be used to. We had some technical difficulties trying to record last night. And so we just decided to put that out today. So this will come out Tuesday morning, March 3rd. We are recording it, though, on Monday night, March 2nd, for those of you tuning in. We are going to talk a little Royals baseball as we get into the rest of this episode. Things we're going to be talking about. We're going to look back at the active week for the Royals on and off the field. They made a pretty significant signing this week, too. We're going to start a discussion of what the offense is looking like, how they're looking as the Switters ease into spring training, how are they looking they might do during the regular season. And then we're going to preview the week ahead for the Royals. It gets a little weird. They're going to play a WBC exhibition game this week, so that'll be interesting. A reminder, too, that if you want additional content, the extra episode we do every week, subscribe to the Royals Weekly Substack. It's royalsweekly.substack.com. We're doing 10% off annual subscriptions until opening day right now. So you have until opening day to cash in on all this extra content. An extra episode from us every week in the midweek. Mike puts out an extra episode during the regular season on Fridays. I do a weekly post, a written post. It's excellent. It's well worth your time, well worth your energy, and we hope well worth your money. Mike, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I can't wait till the regular season gets started. We'll be firing up Mike's Drop again, possibly on Friday mornings, and then maybe a little something change of pace once the school year gets out and I've got a little bit more time. But definitely something worth doing for, gosh, if you do the annual subscription right now, it's less than $5 a month. So can't beat those prices either.
Yeah. If you can't support the show financially, feel free to leave us a rating or review. Apple Podcast reviews, we love to read them here on the episode. They're usually funny or very kind, and we appreciate that. So make sure you're giving us those ratings and reviews or leaving comments under the YouTube section. We love having a back and forth with the people who comment on YouTube. Feel free to do that as well. Royals Weekly is brought to you by All in Physical Therapy, who are happy to announce that they now offer strength and conditioning programs for youth athletes who want to gain an edge on the football field, basketball court, or baseball field.
I think we need to do a combine for like 40-plus-year-old dudes that are far past their glory days. And I need to start training for that, or I'm going to end up right at All in Physical Therapy.
Yes,
needing more help than I already do.
I'll tell you what, Eric Oxer's already posted his 40, so I'll update you on that later. And of course, All in Physical Therapy still offers the best in recovery from total joint surgeries and sports injuries with offices in Blue Springs, Lee Summit, and Belton. They'll help you take care of your recently replaced hips, knees, shoulders, elbows, you name it.
A couple new hips and knees are going to cut my 40 time in half from 12 to 6.5 or something like that.
Yeah, I think that'll be great. If you're interested in reaching the peak of your athletic performance or getting back to 100% from an injury, check out All in Physical Therapy at allin-pt.com. That's ALLIN-pt.com, or give them a call at 816-427-5300. That's 816-427-5300. We typically start the review of last week with roster news, and this week we actually have some to talk about, and it's not negative, which is great. It's not injury related. The Royals have decided to make a signing. Late in the day, they swoop in and get an outfielder, Starling Marte, 37-year-old outfielder who was most recently with the, Mike, do you know who he played for last year? Mets, I thought, yeah. With the Mets, they signed Starling Marte. In a corresponding move, they designated Dairon Blanco for assignment today. The contract details for Marte are, it's basically $1 million guaranteed for 1 year, and then $3 million in roster and performance bonuses. So if he stays on the active roster for long enough, he gets a certain more money. Same with if he hits certain performance goals. Mike, what are your thoughts on the Royals going out, adding Starling Marte, outfielder? We've said they needed an outfield bat. What are your thoughts?
I get it. I do. I understand it. A 1 year deal for not very much money. And it's a guy who despite sort of you're in the twilight of his career. I mean, he's a waning athletically. The age decline is certainly there. He can still put up some solid offensive contributions from the right side. And I think this might say more about the team's confidence in the health of Isaac Collins, in the health long-term of Lane Thomas and other outfielders and Jac Caglianone. I think both you and I are a little bit kind of encouraged by the things we've seen in the last week from him, but no guarantees there in regular season. So I think they took a look at their outfield and said, where do we have a guarantee? And that the answer is pretty much nowhere. Let's go out and get somebody who we can feel like we can have another layer of protection in case one of those guys gets hurt or there's ineffectiveness. Or with Isaac Collins, the knee thing, that could just flare up at any time. So, I mean, it actively means you're carrying 5 outfielders almost certainly, unless somebody's on the IL. But I get it. I get why they would want to go do that, especially for a contract that's that cheap.
Yeah, I guess when you put it that way, I understand the reasoning behind it. I don't love it as much as like not doing it and sort of keeping flexibility of having a Nick Lofton and a Tyler Tolbert type character. Just a little more flexibility on your bench. Starling Marte virtually can't play defense anymore. Like he played I think 65 innings in the outfield last year of 98 games, which is like a roughly 800 innings total. He only played 65 of them in the outfield. He DH'd almost primarily with the Mets. And so, or he did DH primarily with the Mets. And so he doesn't play outfield much anymore. He's a liability out there. His offense is waning. I do see it from your perspective. That's like, okay, but an added layer of protection because injury is an issue for this outfield. Lane Thomas, Isaac Collins. Don't forget, Jac Caglianone I think they said he was injured, and that's what sent him down to AAA last year. I think some of us thought that was a little bit of a dubious injury designation, but it's one of those things where you can't count on a lot of those stuff. And so this does offer you what was a league average bat last year. It's not a platoon split kind of situation. He actually doesn't hit lefties better than he hits righties. He hits righties better than he hits lefties, a reverse platoon split. But it is an idea that they could sort of get guys rest, help as a stopgap when somebody goes down for a couple weeks. And that is valuable to some degree.
And if you look at a lot of the injuries he's had, which he's had plenty over the last, few years, a lot of them I think are ones that you look at and say, well, that's more of a 35, 36-year-old playing every day kind of an injury. He's not going to play every day here. So you hope you can keep him healthy with a diminished role in the offense. And then when you do bring him in, he's going to provide you with competent at bats and the ability to put the ball out on occasion.
Yeah. And it might just be that playing less also helps his performance as well. We've seen guys who can sort of be more rested and thus more effective from those limited roles. And so, yeah, we'll see that'll be his sort of thing. He won't be like a weapon off the bench in any way. He's a bench player because he's not going to play very often, but he's not a weapon off the bench. You can't bring him in to run bases or, play defense or anything like that. And so he will have a limited role. That's my one issue with the move is that it actually limits their bench significantly more in some ways. On the field, the Royals went 3-3-1 last week. Yes, you can tie in the Cactus League, and they did. That brings their overall record to 5-4-1. They managed wins against the A's, Rockies, Brewers. Not that any of that matters. None of this matters at all, right? Like I'm giving you the records. It does not matter. Mike, what did you see out there this week that might be worth mentioning?
Saw some guys ramping up and some hitters getting their eye for the strike zone, which is a positive. I've been somewhat pleasantly surprised from what I've seen from a few of the guys offensively. Some encouraging things from some of the younger guys, especially maybe a concerning thing or two from some of the veterans. Looking at you, Seth Lugo. I'm looking at you, Estevez. Haven't seen, great things from those guys as of yet, but so far that lineup has looked, like something I'm pretty encouraged with.
Yeah, I've seen some very good plate appearances, and I got to see a couple games live as well. And so I got to see one of them was basically right behind the, home plate kind of thing. It was a little off to the right or left, but I got to see some good plate appearances out there from Jac Caglianone, from Michael Massey, from some guys who have really shown approach issues. We saw some really good plate appearances, and as a consequence, they scored a bunch of runs this week. and they look like a type of team. It looks like they're moving towards the model of what they want to be. It's like get on base, hit for power occasionally, and that sort of thing. Have really good plate appearances and do damage on pitches you can do damage on. We also got to see Reagans this week for the first time. He looked very good. Mason Black continues to look very good. Out of the bullpen as a little bit of a surprise option there. And then Bubic looked good in his start.
I'm going to throw this out there because you said it last week, but I got to keep pumping it up. Josh Rojas.
Josh Rojas
good
again. Very good.
I mean, he's looked very good. Like the ball's exploding off his bat. He looks like a gamer, you know?
Yeah.
So we'll see on him.
Nick Lofton has to be wondering like, oh, is my seat getting a little hotter? Is it now he came out and had 2 hits today, Nick Lofton did. And so he's clearly battling. Yeah, he did. And so they're clearly battling, and Rojas is showing a little bit of a spark. And so you really want to see those two continue to duke it out. They're both going to get tons of playing time now with guys gone for the WBC. And so you're going to see a lot of both of them playing. It'll be interesting to see what the Royals choose to do there. Mike, with the Royals putting up so much offense this week, who was your strong performer?
I went with the guy we were all kind of the guy who's got the spotlight on him, the guy that's under the magnifying glass right now. I went with Jac Caglianone because that previous week, and he didn't play that much in the previous week. Nobody did. You know, you're easing into spring training. But I went through and looked at, like you did, at bat, everything that Jac Caglianone swung at in that previous week, and it was not looking great. Like you could maybe see a little step forward. He was really waiting, like not swinging at the first pitch hardly ever, and really waiting to see, but he just still wasn't identifying pitches all that well. That seemed to change around this week a little bit, where he was identifying pitches. I saw him, he swung at a first pitch and hit a massive double in a game, but it was the first pitch you should swing at.
Yeah.
Like, was that the Rockies game?
Yeah, it was Rockies game. He hit it right off the base of the wall, basically.
Yeah, and
dead center.
It's that kind of stuff. When a guy really gets comfortable with his zone and with the zone and where he's looking at pitches, it's not just about some sort of dogmatic way of laying off pitches. It's I can identify when a pitch is in the zone, that the part of the zone that I want to swing at, and if that's the first pitch, then I'm swinging at that one too. And so if you can really see, he did feel like he got a lot more comfortable with the strike zone with his own approach. We saw 4 for 10 this week, 2 doubles, a home run, 4 runs. And if you're seeing this next part with Jac Caglianone, you know he's doing it well. 4 walks to 1 strikeout. So, and yes, he can put bat to ball, but he's never going to be a guy that walks a ton. If he's walking too, and you saw some at bats in there where it's like, especially when a guy's really trying to become more patient, it's really hard to take a first pitch strike and then battle back and get a walk. He did that at least once this past week, where he watched the first pitch be a strike and then went ahead and laid off consecutive pitches after that to draw a walk. And that's when you know, like, okay, his eye is getting to a place. He's calming down. It'll be very interesting to see what he does in this World Baseball Classic.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting and fun thing to watch because he'll be facing some decent pitching in his group. I mean, it's not all great from all the teams, but he'll get to see the Team USA's staff, which is very good. Mexico's staff is pretty good. And so it's not that the competition is going to completely fall off a cliff, and he needs to keep working that new approach. That's wonderful to see. Also, I will say, I think in the game that the Rockies game, I think Bobby was down 0-2 in 2 at-bats, worked it all the way back for a walk from 0-2 in both of those. Bobby, I got to keep your eye on in terms of approach, how that's going.
Yeah, he might be an okay player.
He's going to be an okay player, but remember, we said that there's still a tiny bit of potential left in that offense, and it starts with not chasing. My strong performer for the week is Carter Jensen. We're sort of preparing Cags Jensen again this week, but they were the two who really went off and led an offense this week. Jensen went 4 for 9 with 2 home runs, no walks, but only 1 strikeout. A guy who, you trust his approach. One of the things I wonder about as his sort of spring goes along is he looks like he's trying to find timing in a way that will allow him to get his launch angle down. He's been hitting some ground balls. Previously he was anyway, but now it looks like he's finding that lift, hitting some line drives, hitting balls out. One of those 2 home runs was an opposite field home run, which you love to see a guy like him showing the power to hit the ball out to all fields. And so, yeah, I think we've got a great look at what he can be. They're not catching him that much. They're not playing him that much in spring training, but that's not overly surprising, in part because he's still really young and they've always been a little bit cautious with his workload. like as a catcher in minor league baseball. Like he's never caught all that much. And so I assume they're like, hey, we're going to keep going slow with him. And during the season, in anticipation, you might need to start catching more during the season. Like 162 game season's a little bit harder than what you're playing in AAA and AA and so forth. It wasn't that long ago for him. He was only catching maybe 50, 60, 70 games a season, and so it's going to be a lot more.
It's also important
season.
To note that at spring training, these catchers especially are catching a lot more than we actually see. So
correct.
He's catching a ton of guys. They're watching him. They're evaluating his catching. We just don't get to see it in a game all the time. So,
right. And remember, in a game, he might have 5 to 7 occasions to block a ball. They can go work blocking balls and bounce 30 off them in 5 minutes on a backfield, and so, yeah. Mike, not everybody was tremendous this last week. Who was a little bit of a weak performer out there?
Well, I'm putting Isaac Collins up here because I think he's somebody that we really wanted to see a lot of after he didn't start in spring training in those games because of the knee issue. He went 1 for 9 with a double, no walks and 4 strikeouts in that time. But I went back through some of the at-bats in those. I think I went back through all of them, actually. And I'm still not concerned. The approach is still there. You look at those plate appearances and he's battling, he's discerning. He's just not putting it together quite with the timing, I think is probably the issue. He's still swinging at pretty good pitches to swing at. So I'm not necessarily worried. The only worry I do have is how well is the knee going to hold up? How is it feeling? Did the mutant, cells they put in there, whatever they're called. Okay.
Yeah. They're, what are they? Placenta? No.
Some sort of weird
platelet rich. Platelet rich.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Whatever. Is that making it work out? Is it going to be a situation where we're still talking about Isaac Collins by the end of this spring training as a guy who has the potential to lead off for this team? Or is this fit going to be better in maybe the 9 hole and you let him be, the second leadoff guy that hits 9 or whatever? But yeah, I definitely want to see some more televised games of Isaac Collins.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. And I think he'll start kicking it into gear here as he gets more comfortable at the plate. Remember, he's a week behind everybody else, and so it might take a little longer. My week performer for this week, got to see in person, and he was not tremendous, and that's Bailey Falter. Looked pretty good in his first start out in spring training. His second was not nearly as good. He went 1 2/3 innings pitched, gave up 2 earned runs, 3 hits, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. He's a guy who it's really hard to know what to do with him if you're the Royals, I'm guessing, because he doesn't have options. That clogs up your bullpen a little bit. He offers some longevity, so he can probably pitch multiple innings. He offers a swing man capacity, so he can maybe easily transition to the rotation, but he doesn't offer a ton of effectiveness, and he really doesn't offer a ton of swing and miss, right? Like the swing and miss is the issue. He doesn't miss enough bats. And so guys are bound to dink, dunk, put a ball and play hard, and boom, before you know it, they got 2 runs, And so, I there's not really an uptick in velocity or stuff from him that I'm seeing. And so I wonder what they're going to sort of do about him, considering he may be tough to keep in the bullpen and he has no more options. And so we'll see on that front. Mike, I know you're in a singing mood. So what do you got for a theme this week?
I don't even know if you can call it singing, to be honest with you.
What Mick does, not really singing. It's more
I'm not sure
shouting.
what Mick does is singing. It's a shouting with a violent gesture of some gesticular, I don't know, some sort of gyration move with a shout. Sometimes he looks like a chicken. We're not sure. But this does come from the great Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones. And it had to do with like starting up the season and getting pumped for the season. And it's one Chiefs fans know by heart. It's, if you start me up, I'll never stop. Dun, dun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Start me
we're
up.
all getting pumped.
The Arrowhead Classic.
Nothing got me more pumped than chilling out on an 88-degree day on the berm, like watching some baseball. I'm now pumped for baseball. It was gorgeous. It was gorgeous. I'm going with the song as well, though it's much newer than the one that Mike referenced. I don't know this song very well. My partner just plays it occasionally, and one of the lines gets stuck in your head because it's like one of those EDM electronic dance music songs. It's like
it's a thumping beat. Yeah.
And so the lyrics are stuck in my head, but I'm going to try and do it justice. It goes, when a fire starts to burn and it starts to spread, she going to bring that attitude home. Who want to do something with their life or something like that. Right? And that's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking the fire in me that's starting to burn, that's starting to spread, and the fire inside the Royals offense that looked like it was spreading. The 2 games I went to, they scored 8 runs in one of them, and they scored 16 in the other one. And so it was a fire, and it was burning, and it was spreading. It was wonderful. Hopefully they can continue that offensive output. Mike, what household chores do you refuse to do yourself?
Window cleaning, pressure washing, and most importantly, gutter cleaning.
And why is that?
If Peter Pan is to be believed, you have to think happy thoughts to fly. I'm all out of those. So cleaning the gutters seems just a bit risky at my age.
Oh, definitely. If you're wise like Mike, reach out to the professionals at Window Wolf for all your window cleaning, gutter cleaning, and pressure washing needs. Window Wolf is a locally operated small business with all the professional know-how to keep your feet on the ground and your house or business shining bright. I've known the owner of Window Wolf for years, and I can tell you there's no one more reliable for high-quality service. Plus, Window Wolf is revolutionizing home maintenance with their new instant price calculator. You got to check this thing out. It gives you a free quote without a home visit or entering a bunch of your personal information. Window Wolf is making the process easy and the price affordable. And for a limited time, you can get 50% off when you book using that instant price calculator. Just visit windowwolf.com. That's windowwolf.com and use the code Royals50. That's Royals50, no spaces, when using that instant price calculator, and you'll save big bucks on quality service.
50%. Normally I got to sprinkle some broken glass in a lasagna to get that kind of discount, but that works every time, everybody.
Every time. Be smart. Let the pack handle your pains with Window Wolf. The Royals offense has been hot lately. They're hitting for power and getting on base. We've seen hot stretches from Bobby Witt Jr., Jac Caglianone, and Carter Jensen, to name a few. It's just spring training, but maybe we can discuss a little how the offense may be taking shape here, right? We're starting to see a shape. Mike, are there any indicators from spring training so far that the offense may be taking a step forward in 2026?
I think we've seen some indications, that there's an opportunity for the offense to take a step forward here. I think you and I, and there might be many in Royals punditry who have kind of felt more secure with what Carter Jensen is doing because the approach is so much more advanced.
I like to call it analysis and commentary, not punditry. That sounds bad. That has a bad connotation.
Royals, content creation. I don't know.
Sure. That's better than punditry.
those of us who spend our free times talking about the Royals instead of hanging out with our families. I think a lot of us have been focused less on Carter Jensen, but he looks like a guy that you don't have to worry about that much because the approach is going to be so good. The valleys aren't going to be quite as low for Carter Jensen. Jac Caglianone was a guy we were all kind of pointing to, and it looked this last week like we started to see a step forward. On top of that, maybe there's a step forward from Bobby Witt Jr. Maikel Garcia looks pretty good still. Vinny, you never know, but I haven't noticed anything that maybe makes me worry about Vinny so far in this spring training. And I think people largely, as long as he doesn't fall off a cliff, feel pretty good about what you're going to get from Salvador Perez. So I think the possibilities are there. And we knew a lot of it was going to hinge on Jack and his ability to take a step forward. He's showing every indication now that he may be doing that, or at least that he's trying to do that, that there's a plan in place, and the plan feels like it's I don't know if it's necessarily the right plan because I don't know the plan, but like it's focusing on the right deficiencies in Jac Caglianone's game, and that makes you feel better. And then when you see him go out and do those things, and you're like me and Mark, and you actually go through the at-bats and go, hey, wait a second, the pitches that he's swinging at are the ones he should be. These are pitches that, and more importantly, maybe the ones he's not swinging at that he would have last year. Those are big steps forward. It's too small of a sample size to say he's going to be able to sustain it. But right now he's giving us some indications that he might be turning a little bit of a corner.
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned it's not about production. It's about the plan. It's about what's happening within those at-bats and those plate appearances. And I think you're seeing it not just from Jac Caglianone. I think you're seeing it across the board. Michael Massey's plate appearances have looked a lot better. Bobby Witt Jr.'s plate appearances have looked a lot better. Lane Thomas is looking really, really good at the plate. Like there are different guys looking like frankly that the new hitting regime is having a little bit of an impact on them. And that's creating a little bit of hope in me that, wait a second, this team isn't going to be 4 or 5 hitters at the top of it. And then good luck, everybody, like we'll see what happens in the 6, 7, 8, 9 hole today, And so if they can have that process, if that process can continue, well, it's not always going to be perfect, right? Jac Caglianone will still have a bad plate appearance here and there. Salvador Perez will still swing at sliders in the other batter's box and stuff like that. But it's going to lead to more production as spots 1 through 9 now are really competitive plate appearances. Mike, you brought up Jac Caglianone. We discussed him last week. We discussed that approach last week. He's done well in the week since then on the front of like swinging better pitches. Are you more encouraged by what you're seeing?
I am. And I didn't mention this yet because I was kind of saving it for this question. Tell me what you think, because I'm really looking for your opinion on this. I mentioned I like what we've seen as far as a step forward in the approach, but I think maybe he's cut his swing down just a little bit. I think it might not be quite as long, and I can actually go to Baseball Savant and see on that when I need to do that. But it looks like he's just, because of that, he's maybe just a tick quicker to the ball, which I think can be very helpful for him as well. Some guys will lose power doing that, but Jac Caglianone is one of those guys that's got plenty to spare. And so if cutting down on the swing a little bit helps you with your swing decision, helps you with your pitch recognition, I'm all for that for Jac Caglianone. And so far I've been nothing but encouraged. That first week was a little bit rough, as he's finding, as most guys are, finding the strike zone himself, but very encouraging signs this past week. And if it takes a little bit of a cut down swing, I'm completely fine with that, because another thing that you mentioned, he's getting a little bit more lift on the ball too. We're not seeing him pounded in the ground as much as he did last year so far. Again, small sample size, but
that was with Carter Jensen. I mentioned that, to be clear.
No, you mentioned it as an issue for Jac Caglianone at the end of the season. I'm like, yeah, it's not just pitch recognition stuff. It's also the fact that he's not getting the ball in the air. And so we've seen him do that a little bit better as well. And so a lot of encouraging things on the Jac Caglianone front. Hopefully he can continue doing that as he moves into the WBC.
Yeah, and the numbers bear this out as well. I picked it up on it a while back, but on Saturday's games, he had 4 plate appearances and saw 15 pitches. I looked at all the charts of where those pitches were. I did not, sort of determine that any of those were bad swing decisions. I thought he went 15 for 15 with good swing decisions in his at-bats on Saturday, which is great for him. That's like a big step forward. But I'm not the only one looking at the numbers.
Just seeing 15 pitches and 4 at-bats is a big step for him.
Oh, well, that's a huge step for him. Well, consider this. His first plate appearance, he swung at the first pitch, right? Like swung at the first pitch, hit it off the wall or hit it at the base of the wall, right? Like, and so think about, he's seeing so many more pitches this spring, and the Royals are doing a smart thing, getting him as many plate appearances as they possibly can. They were hitting him second. He was playing basically every day. He played the last 3 days I was there, or the whole 3 days I was there in Arizona. So yeah, he's playing a lot. He got a lot of plate appearances, which is great because he needs to embed that new approach. It needs to ride it out among the good times and the bad and all that sort of stuff. But I'm not the only one who noticed this. The great David Lesky mentioned in one of his posts this last week that Caglianone had seen 31 pitches outside the strike zone and only swung at 8 of them, which is only 25.8% chase rate. That's really good for him. That's a significantly lower chase rate than he had last season. And so if he can do that, if he can chase less, if he can make sure he's having these good plate appearances where he's getting into good counts and then targeting pitches he can do damage on, that's a whole different ball game for this offense, because now you have one of the most dangerous hitters in baseball who actually knows what to swing at, right? Mike, I know it's still very early, but we're not going to see some of these guys for a while, right? Like Bobby Witt Jr., we're not going to see him for a while. Jack, we're not going to see for a while. Vinny, they've all left now at this point. Given what we know right now, do you think that the Royals offense takes a step forward in 2026?
I do. And we mentioned if Jack settles in, that's a game changer. But here's the crazy thing, because of some of the moves they've made, the guys that they have, I think even if he struggles a little bit, as long as guys stay healthy, they could still even be better, because Carter Jensen's going to be there, because it's now Maikel Garcia feeling even more confident in the role that he's in. Maybe if Bobby Witt Jr. can fix his approach just slightly, you tap into some more of the power outcomes that he's able to bring you. If Vinny doesn't have the worst start ever like he has, like he did last year. There's a good chance this offense is better. Jac Caglianone, like we have said in the past, makes the ceiling much, much, much higher if he is able to continue what we saw from him this past week. And so, yeah, I do think there's a significant chance to take a step forward in the lineup and run production. Yes, moving the fences in may have a small impact on that as well. But if you're buying stock on the Royals offense, I'm buying it now because I think it's going to go up.
I think it will too. And I think now is probably the right time because before we didn't have any sort of data on whether or not those approaches might get a little bit better. Now we've at least seen a number of plate appearances from different guys who look like they're ready to, be selective, be patient, swing at premium pitches, and that sort of thing. I think that makes a ton of sense. I think it makes a ton of sense too, that even if Jack isn't what he could potentially be, hasn't filled all his potential offensively, that they're still going to be better offensively overall. It's not just Carter Jensen. It's also, remember, the thing that made them really bad as an offense obviously Vinny Stark didn't help, but MJ and Melendez and Michael Massey were two of, and Hunter Renfroe. These were three of the worst hitters in baseball for the first 2 months of the season, and so just changing that production out with Isaac Collins, Lane Thomas, or even Jac Caglianone, who's not, crushing it completely, is going to improve the offense, right? Because they were not just bad last year. They were historically bad. MJ Melendez, Michael Massey, Hunter Renfroe, historically bad in the first couple of months. And so just changing that production out will be hugely beneficial. Royals Weekly is brought to you by Eric Oxter of West USA Realty. Do you have the same fantasy we do, retiring to a land of eternal summer? If so, you need to call Eric Oxter of West USA Realty pronto. He can help you transition to a lovely home in the Phoenix area and a life of fun in the sun.
You've been soaking up all that sun all weekend. Meanwhile, I'm here like REO Speedwagon, riding the storm out.
Yes, you did. Great work. Eric was one of the top realtors in the Phoenix area in 2025 because he gives all of his clients a personal experience focused entirely on their needs. With Eric Oxter of West USA Realty, it's not about him. It's about you. He's there to listen to you, work for you, and guide you through the ins and outs of buying and selling in the Phoenix area.
And trust me, there are plenty of ins and outs, probably even some ups and downs, and definitely a few rounds and abouts.
Find Eric Oxter of West USA Realty online at ericoxter.com. That's ERICKAUXIER.com. Or just give him a call or shoot him a text at 480-383-9745. That's 480-383-9745. If you're at all interested in what a life in the Phoenix area might hold, let him make the experience all about you. The Royals play 6 games this week against the Angels, Team Cuba, the Rangers, the Dodgers, the Reds, and the White Sox. The team's WBC players have already departed. They've reported to all the various teams that they're going to play for. Mike, this might mean more playing time for other guys. What are you looking at this week?
Oh, there's still a lot of things that I want to see this week. I want to see Josh Rojas continue to play. I want to see what that competition between he and, Tyler Tolbert and Nick Lofton and, kind of all the guys who are vying for a bench spot on the infield. Although Tolbert's kind of a outfield / infield guy, but want to see what he does as the hot start. Does the hot start continue for Josh Rojas? Wanted to start to look at some of those bullpen arms, especially Lucas Erceg.
I got to see him in a B game. He got a double hit off him by Asbel Gonzalez.
Oh, wow. Congratulations, Asbel Gonzalez. Yeah, that's a big thing for you. But I really want to see how he looks. We got to see Noah Cameron today. I'll be interested to see his next start again as well. The fastball wasn't going as hard as I would have hoped for him. It was when I looked in, it was averaging 90. So maybe a tick higher than that would be good, but he's still building up, I'm sure. So I want to see what he does next. And then, just continue to see good things from Carter Jensen would be fantastic for me.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm interested in seeing Collins continue to get comfortable. We really kind of need him. to be productive out there in left field, and it would be great if he could be a leadoff option for them. So I'd like to see him get more comfortable, ease in, hope stay healthy. Obviously, that's a big one. And yeah, I want to see bullpen guys.
Does it scare you at all that Michael Massey played left field? I think today.
No, it doesn't.
No.
The way they've been talking about him all off season, Michael Massey, I mean, is as a utility guy. They're talking, all they do is talk about how, well, he can play second and he can play left. And so I think that they've been thinking about the notion that they might have to fill some Collins innings with other guys the whole time. And so that's not overly surprising to me. He was going to play some left in spring training no matter what. And so, I'm sure I'll play even more now that there are fewer guys in camp. And so we'll see on that front, but probably a good idea to have somebody just sort of rotating in. And we know he played left fairly well last year, Michael Massey. I'm also interested in bullpen guys like you. Saw Helcris Olivares. He looked really good. I want to see more from Mason Black. I think there are decisions to be made in this bullpen, and there are quite a few viable candidates for it. I mean, I know we think of guys like Steven Cruz as having like a lock, or Luinder Avila or something like that, but the reality is some of these guys have options, and guys like, some of the other ones may not. And if they don't, it might be, they might have options when it comes to, or the Royals might have choices when it comes to who they want to put in this bullpen. So I'm interested to see those guys. Mike, I do want to mention that the Royals will play the White Sox for the first time in spring training this week. I know they're kind of an interesting team given how young they are, how much they're going to rely on prospects. Is there anything that you're doing or that they're doing that might interest you to watch them play?
Well, yeah, just getting a look at some of their young players, I think, is always interesting. I would love if in that game we could see either Hagen Smith or Noah Schultz. That'd be really cool. I'd especially be interested to see Hagen Smith because I was a big fan of his coming out of Arkansas in that draft. What was it, 2 years ago now? I can't remember if it was 2 years ago or if it was just last year. He's moved pretty quick. So I'll be interested in them. And then they've got a couple young outfielders that are very exciting as well. Colson Montgomery, and then the other guy whose name I'm blanking on.
Is Edgar Cuero? Is he playing for the White Sox now?
I don't know.
I can't remember.
They've got a couple young outfield prospects that are interesting as well, but really just to see the young guys for them is what I'm interested in, because they're definitely building it that way, like the Royals way. We're building up a farm system filled with guys, and then we're going to try and get them all into the major leagues at roughly the same time, to create a window where we can compete for the division. I don't think it's this year, but starting next year, I think we start to see that move.
Yeah, they're a young team. They got a lot of young talent that's very interesting. You've mentioned quite a few of them. It is Edgar Cuero I'm thinking of as a catching prospect they have, who's also quite good. And I think is having a very hot
Kyle
spring
Teal's
as well.
in there.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to catch for them like regularly. He might be moving somewhere else, but well, he can hit at the very least, right? And he might be somebody they end up trading because they do have a lot of prospect capital to trade from as well. But like we said, a lot of young players like Colson Montgomery and others who are probably going to work their way into this lineup or be mainstays in this lineup. So I'm interested in what the White Sox might do. It'll be interesting to see the Royals play them. The Royals, of course, will be playing mostly their own prospects. I don't know if you saw the lineup they put out today, but it was like Nick Lofton was hitting second. Like that's the type of lineup that they put out today. And we're probably going to see quite a few of those as spring training continues and the World Baseball Classic players are playing for Team USA and Venezuela and others. We'll end this week's episode like we end every episode with the Just About Outside segment, where we talk about something that's interesting to us outside the world of baseball. Mike, you've got a lot going on all the time. I'm interested to hear about your last week because I've been out of town. I haven't been really keeping up. What's going on?
Well, I could talk about a lot of things. I did visit our hometown to celebrate a 40th birthday with a good friend of ours. Saw some great old friends that haven't seen in a while. Got to talk to a lot of them, and that was awesome. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a different birthday.
More important birthday.
Happy birthday. Yeah, more important birthday. Happy birthday shout out to my lovely wife, Morgan, who I'm not going to tell you how old she turned because she wouldn't like that. But her birthday was on Sunday, and we try and celebrate her as much. It is because of her that she takes on extra workload with our son so that I can come do these things, or so that I can watch games, or so that I can record, Mike's drop for the Substack and things like that. And so big shout out to her and the extra. And she's also she's taking a college class right now and working full time and being a mom. And doing all these different things and still allowing me the time that I need to record for you wonderful folks. So big shout out to my wife and happy birthday to her. And here's to, many, 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 many more.
Let's just say she looks significantly younger than Mike, right? Like that's the big takeaway, right? Like she looks significantly younger than Mike. Okay.
True. Very true.
Yes. Happy birthday, Morgan. I sent her a birthday text. I haven't gotten a response.
She's a little younger and looks significantly younger. That's a good way.
Some of that is a comment on how Mike's doing these days. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm talking about a crazy, crazy thing that happened to me, and I need other people's perspective on this one. Okay. Because at the time it's happening to me, I'm thinking this is crazy, but I had no other sort of context. So I had to start asking other people in the comments of YouTube or wherever, just leave a comment if this sounds crazy to you. Like, cause it sounds crazy to me. And I just want confirmation that I'm not misreading the situation. On Saturday night, me and a friend who I went to visit in Phoenix, I'm sure you can tell from our ads who that friend is. We decided to go out on Saturday night, but both of us needed somebody to drive us there. And so we got an Uber, right? Not a lot of Ubers out where he lives. He kind of outside the main drag or wherever. And so we had to wait a little while for a guy to get there. This guy pulls up. He's at least 70, probably 80, right? And he's this older gentleman. And we're getting into his car and he tells us, I need to stop and get some air in my tire. My tire's got like a leak. It's going flat. And we're like, okay, that's not entirely normal, but whatevs, we're down. And so he starts driving. And my friend is a very like personable person. And so he's making small talk. He's chatting or whatever. And the guy starts singing along with the radio. And he starts telling us how he loves his music. And because he's singing, my friend feels empathetically necessary to start singing as well. About 10 minutes into this drive, a full-on duet is happening. A full-on duet, okay? Between this 80-year-old black dude and my friend, right, who's like my age, 40, right? But the weirdest part of the story is, what songs do you think they're singing? It's not James Brown and Motown like you would think this guy might have listened to in his heyday. It's Miley Cyrus's Flowers. It's like 90s pop. It's all girl pop music. And they're both just like full on belting it. They're going for it. They're going for it in the car together, right? Like, so we pull off because we got to get air in the tire. We get air in the tire. We get back in the car. So weird. And I can't even tell you. And you know, this guy, the kids need to maybe say, no more driving. It's time to not, because he was the worst.
Swerving all over the road?
I was scared for my life the whole time. He's belting it out and yet also not driving very carefully, right? Like,
are you thinking if we crash and die, I hope this song's not still playing?
Yeah, I know. Like, this is how I go out. This is how I go out. Listening to a duet of Miley Cyrus by these two. That's how my life ends, you know, like crazy. Tell me that's normal. That can't be normal, right? Like,
that's not normal, man. I've been in some messed up Uber rides before, but that's a great story.
Okay. I just wanted to confirm it because like I was thinking about him as I drove to the airport today. I'm like, what did you think James is doing right now? And I'm like, he's probably just chilling in his house, smoking a J and just singing out to like Demi Lovato or something, like something you would never expect. Sabrina Carpenter. And one of those came on and he was like, he knew all of them. Every word, every note, he knew them all, right? Like it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. And I'm alive, so that's good. But anyway, that's all we have for you this week. Thank you for tuning in. Let me know if that was crazy. If you want to hear more Royals Weekly stuff, royalsweekly.substack.com. We really appreciate it. We'll be back again on Wednesday for midweek subscribers. Until then, be good to each other.
And go Royals.